Hi, I'm John Ballou. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over some basic troubleshooting for Final Cut Pro 10. Just remember the 4 R's to troubleshooting in the software: relaunch, reboot, re-render, repair. This is the order of operation I use when trying to troubleshoot. Of course, it doesn't end here, but trying these first could help you meet a deadline. But before we examine these steps, let's take a small tangent and look at hard drives, which can sometimes be the root of many problems. Your media is stored on hard drives, and today we have plenty to choose from. A hard disk drive, or HDD, is much more affordable than a solid-state drive, or SSD. There's also a RAID configuration, but that's beyond the scope of this tutorial. Unfortunately, the hard disk drive is a spinning disk which requires more energy, makes more noise, and can fail easier because of all the moving parts and possible overheating. The solid-state drive is a lot more expensive and cannot hold nearly the amount of data that a hard disk drive can. But it is very fast because there are no moving parts. And now Apple has genetically combined the two and created the Fusion drive. I've been using this for almost 2 years in my iMac, and I've had great results. It has the speed of a solid-state drive with the capacity of a hard disk drive because it uses the operating system to determine which files or applications you use the most. It seamlessly places them on the SSD part of the drive while everything else goes on the HDD part of the drive. You'll notice nothing as it all happens in the background, and the Finder sees it as one single drive. However, I never place my media on the same drive as the operating system. Wait, what? That's right. If you do, you might have good results, but eventually you will create a new space-time continuum that will tear apart the very fabric of the universe itself. Never edit from the max boot drive, which is the drive you have the operating system on. Okay, the innards of the drive is not the only thing that determines the speed of which data is sent back and forth, otherwise known as data transfer rate, or more commonly referred to as read and write speed. There are 3 variables to consider: the rotational speed at which the disks rotate, or don't rotate in the case of solid-state drives, the chips or enclosure of the drive that pushes the data, and the cables at which the data travels. In this chart, we are comparing the speed of cables. Data rate is measured in megabits or gigabits. Remember, 1,000 megabits equals 1 gigabit. Okay, let's look at some math. Media that has been optimized by Final Cut Pro is usually ProRes 422. In this example, the frame size is 1920 by 1080 at 23.9 frames per second. According to this Apple documentation, the data rate is 117 megabits per second. We'll just round that to 120 for simplicity's sake. So, 120 read speed plus 120 write speed equals 240. Okay, great. FireWire can handle that just fine. But what if you had a multicam project with 4 angles? Well, 4 times 240 is 960. Now, a FireWire drive won't do. But also, you might be compositing, or you have some other graphics that require more bandwidth. This is just a basis for what to consider with hard drives that you choose to use. USB 3 would be sufficient, but one thing to consider about Thunderbolt drives is that because the cable itself has a chip in it, on both ends, it is able to reach data speeds of 10 gigabits both directions, or read and write speeds. Not to mention that it can send audio, video, and internet signals that are daisy-chained from Apple's Thunderbolt Cinema display, without losing speed on about 6 peripherals. Same with the new Thunderbolt 2. Only it reaches speeds of 20 gigabits per second. Now let's talk about formatting the hard drive. Different operating systems use different ways of reading and writing databases. When you first purchase a drive, go ahead and format it to macOS Extended Journaled. This tip alone will save you from wondering why you didn't start a goat farm in Montana instead of producing video. Why, do you ask? Listen, don't make me explain that whole destroying the fabric of the universe again. Okay, back to the 4 R's. Relaunch. Simply just means quitting and reopening Final Cut. It's a lot like taking a coffee break. It is something you will start to feel a sort of spidey sense for. If you ever think something weird is going on, relaunching the program might help. Reboot. Restarting the machine clears RAM, among other magic sorcery that Apple has done for years. In fact, I shut down every day because of this. Re-render. Delete render files and other Final Cut generated files because they could have gotten corrupted. Repair disk permissions and delete Final Cut preferences. Okay, this is actually 2 different steps, but 4 R's is easier to remember than 4 R's and 1 D. Repairing disk permissions is essentially taking your car to a mechanic when your car is making a noise. Now let me show you how to delete render files in Final Cut along with deleting the preferences. Then I'll show you how to repair disk permissions and to format a drive using the disk utility that's in your Applications folder. In Final Cut Pro, you'll have the library selected, and under the File menu, you'll choose Delete Generated Library Files. Here you can choose to delete the render files, either all or just the ones that are not being used. I would go ahead and delete all of them to save drive space. You could also delete the optimized media or proxy media. This is especially helpful if you're using RED footage. But I'm going to cancel that for now, because I want to point out that you can also choose an event. So when you go to the File menu, it says Delete Generated Event Files. And then all you'll have to do is re-render in the timeline. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and quit Final Cut Pro. To delete the preferences of Final Cut Pro, before launching the application, you'll want to hold Command and the Option key together. Now it'll give you the option to delete the preferences. Sometimes preference files get corrupted, and this is the way to do it. All your media will be fine and everything will be as is. Back in the disk utility, it's in your Applications folder, I'm going to go to the Macintosh HD and under First Aid, Repair Disk Permissions. And this will go through and repair the disk permissions. This usually takes about a minute, and when it's done, all you have to do is quit the application. I usually like to restart the machine anyway, just in case. Now let me show you how to reformat a drive. I have an external drive connected here I've named Silver Surfer. And under the Erase tab, you'll choose Mac OS Extended Journaled. These other ones might work, but this is the one that works the best for Final Cut Pro 10. But once you select it, you'll name the drive and click Erase. And that will wipe everything on the drive, so make sure it's backed up. I hope this was informative for you, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my channel. I'm John Ballou. Thanks for watching.